Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, Bop Rack for short, I'm over Box. So I thought I'd look at my favourite singer, vocalist of all time on this feature, go through a few of them. In actual fact, all these guys on here, pretty much, and women as well, what you class as singers. I think there's a distinction between singers and vocalists. Like David Lee Roth's clearly a vocalist, and I really like him, but he's not a singer in the same way Freddie Mercury is. Freddie may be just the greatest singer to ever front a rock band. I'm selecting other people because my listening habits. But if someone said to me, Freddie Mercury, greatest rock vocalist, rock frontman, I certainly wouldn't dispute that. I'll give you a top 10 and some people tied alongside that. But I'll just give you a few sort of outliers that I've always liked. From the classic rock genre, Brian Connolly, The Sweet. Just a really good sort of classic rock, very English voice, kind of like Roger Daltrey, who's another great singer. Phil Lynott, really like his sort of lower register, almost poetic way of kind of inspired by Hendrix, really. Hendrix, I say, is a vocalist more than a singer. He was inspired by Dylan, who other people would argue is more of a vocalist, both excellent. And sort of in the Phil Lynott style, Phil Mogg of UFO, he's got that kind of great singing voice, but sings in a slightly lower register, not as histrionic, and has got that way of singing, of almost telling you a tale and leading you, drawing you into the story. And of course, Bon Scott as well, a great lyricist, something like Down Payment Blues. I think Bon Scott, as an argument, he is more of a vocalist than the singer in some ways, but he's got an amazing, difficult range. Something like Touch Too Much, that's so hard to sing. Just amazing, sort of the ultimate kind of pub rock, post pub rock era singer, I suppose. Bon Scott, when DC came over, at the sort of beginnings of punk and the pub rock era, he was just brilliant. And some new guys that I really rate, Eric Gronholm would be my top choice of Heat, formerly recently Skid Row. If you go on his YouTube channel, he can just take down and sing anything, really. His cover of The Headless Cross, I think, is even better than the original. He can do all sorts. He's got such power, energy, and he doesn't thin out when he hits those top notes. Plus, he doesn't sound like anyone else. The other two choices I've got here are great. Dino Jazulik, he's an amazing singer, but you hear him sort of copying Badlands of Whitesnake, and you can hear sort of his influences coming in. There's nothing wrong with that. I think he's amazing, as is Ronnie Romero as well. But you can hear their influence of Dio, for instance, coming in more, and I don't get that with Eric Gronholm as well. But those three guys there are sort of the modern top singers I really enjoy. From the hair metal, glam metal era, Don Dokken, I always felt was underrated. Just a really melodic singer, just really good to listen to. His tunefulness of his voice just brought out the melody of the songs, and of course he could hit some really piercing high notes. I think he probably found that quite tough, and I think that probably cost him in the end. Tony Harnell of TNT, maybe not to everyone's taste because he's so stratospheric, but he really could just get up there. Again, very melodic voice, very tuneful. Kip Winger, who I think people kind of don't immediately think of when they think about great vocalists, but amazing range. Listen to Battle Stations, I don't think he can sing that now. A lot of power in his voice, a lot of melody, a lot of soul. And he could just get a lot of grit in there as well. He didn't kind of suffer the way a lot of other singers from that era did. He really could do it. And when you see them live, he's sort of carefully kind of navigated the aging process with his voice. He still sounds great and really good. And the kind of guy who got away, really passed away sadly. And for those who are aware of his work, absolutely brilliant. Ray Gillen. Obviously, you'd go to Badlands to check out his top work. I think there's only two things he probably had released, the Badlands albums, but I strongly recommend you check out his demos for The Eternal Idol by Black Sabbath and the live concert from the Seventh Sign tour, I think, because he replaced Glenn Hughes. He could have sung all the Sabbath stuff. He can sing the Aussie stuff. He could interpret it with his sort of classic rock voice. The Dio stuff he could interpret well as well. Just he could just sing it his way, and it sounded great. And then of course on the demos for Eternal Idol, he sounds brilliant on a track like Glory Ride or Shining. You know, if it worked out with Black Sabbath, you know, he could have bridged the gap. I love Tony Martin, he's really good, but I think Blake Gillen was just some other animal. But Badlands will be his epitaph, really. A couple of more power metal guys. One you'll be aware is Russell Allen of Symphony X, power metal, progressive metal. Absolutely brilliant, bags of balls, but I love it when he cleans up a bit and he sounds more Steve Walsh-ish. And a guy who people may not be aware of, but Rob Rock. Rob Rock's been around for years. He does Impellitteri stuff, but I love him particularly from the Project Driver album. He's a classic American power metal singer in the Dio mold. He's really good. He's still good. He's got big rich voice. He can hit high notes with loads of power and do metal screams. I really like him, so check out his work. So let's go into me sort of 10 choices, and what I'll do is I'll pick some other singers around these as well from the era who are also great. So this guy really just came into my world in the last 10 years, really. The drummer of the band I used to be in was Vendetta, and then I was in a covers band called Ministry of Rock. He's a great purveyor of rock, and he said, oh, have you checked out Survivor? I think I had a best of Survivor, and he let us a few albums. I really got into Jimmy Jameson, and what he has, that the other choices from this era, he's got a little bit more balls, he's got a little bit more grit, so he sings the high stuff like Steve Perry and Steve Walsh, two great singers of Journey in Kansas, but he's got that little bit more, rage in there. So if you're not checked out Mickey Thomas, check out the, it's not Mickey Thomas, Jimmy Jameson. Check out the Survivor album, particularly Vital Signs. He's absolutely great. Mickey Thomas is another great singer. I've always loved Jane by Jefferson Starship, and he's worked with them. That guy, if you check him out now, he's amazing. He's got that R&B blue-eyed soul thing that Steve Perry has as well. And of course, you can't ignore Brad Delp of Boston. I mean, that first Boston album, More Than the Feeling alone is just some of the greatest rock singing ever. It's insane. And those guys are all great, but Jimmy Jameson, he's the guy I think you could put in other contexts and he could do it. He could sing metal or something. Next guy, again, this may be controversial, with Joey Tempest. Not only as a singer, but as a frontman. He's a great frontman, very much in the Coverdale mold. Every time I see Europe Live, his voice is flawless. He engages with the audience. Sorry, I keep mispronouncing here. And he has got a really great voice on record. Check out his Europe albums. He's got the right influence. He's influenced by guys like Phil Mogg and Phil Lynott, but he could do the sort of higher register. And he's a very sensible singer, Joey Tempest. He kind of sung sensibly. He didn't go for the big, massive screams, and that's why he's able to still do it now. Really good. Next guy's a big influence on the metal style of singing, maybe more than people realising, is David Byron of Uriah Heep. What I like with Byron is his screams are kind of thin but unique. The kind of operatic. He's got a kind of wobbly vibrato, but it's expressive. And he's kind of a little bit showbiz, you can imagine him kind of singing in a quite theatrical style, but he's very good. It makes the heavier stuff Uriah Heep did very unique. But when he does a ballad, he really could nail it. July Morning, all that cool acoustic stuff like Circus. He could nail those in a way the other singers of that era couldn't. And he's just got a unique style, really good diction as well. He's very clean, very clear, and I really like that. And I think he's more influential than people realise. Then you've got this guy, another guy from that era, Coverdale. I just think Coverdale in his pomp. I'm talking with Purple and early Whitesnake, not so much Whitesnake 87 onwards when he started going higher. you listen to tracks like Burn or Soldier of Fortune. He's absolutely brilliant. Stormbringer, across those tracks. And then when he goes White Snake, Don't Break My Heart Again, or Full for Your Loving, Blind Man, Carry Your Load. I mean, he's so mellow. He took the Paul Rodgers thing of not singing in the high, a bit more bluesy, not going into the higher, for musicians, the top note of the tenor range is the C. It's called C5, I believe. And a lot of these singers can regularly get up there and above that. Coverdale started going up there later on, but he didn't do that early on. And he would just go a bit below that, by a tone or a couple of tones. And it brought the richness out in his voice. And it meant, if he'd stayed like that, he would have preserved his voice. But he wanted to compete with the glam metal era, and he needed to go higher. But he's brilliant. And of course, the other two singers from Deep Purple, Glenn Hughes and Ian Gillan, who are both superb. Gillan just blew me away when I first heard Child in Time and Highway Star, the Deepest Purple tracks of the compilation. And Glenn Hughes, just amazing how he comes in on a track like Burn. Again, he's got that funky soul, that Stevie Wonder thing. And he's still got an extraordinary voice considering his substance abuse in the 80s. But I think the reason his voice preserved is after Purple, he didn't have to do big stadium tours. He was kind of doing a lot of session singing, the smaller things and not as long as tours. And I think that kind of saved him there. Next up, we come with a female singer, and I'm going for a pop singer here, and it's Agnetha Fältskog of ABBA. I think she's the greatest female pop singer ever. I think she's got incredible power, range, diction, and the emotion she pulls out, particularly on ballads like SOS, what I call her pleading sort of delivery, is incredible. And of course, it would be remiss not to mention Frida, a brilliant singer also. Not quite as in the upper register as Agnetha, but with that beautiful smoothness and of course the blend of the harmonies. On the last ABBA album, Voyage, Frida actually did more lead vocals, I think, early on. Just both brilliant, I used the word female singer, but, she's just one of the greats. And from that pop background, I would pick Dusty Springfield, the original pop, British pop singer, who's got a great voice and could do the soul thing, the only female singer to go to Memphis and record with the musicians from the area, the black musicians, and son of a preacher man, and just brilliant. Again, she's got fantastic diction. Just the diction with singing today is terrible, and you can hear like Dusty Springfield, you hear Agnetha, and people like Frida and will have picked up on that crisp delivery. And Karen Carpenter, again, she's singing in an even lower register than someone like Frida. Unusual, I forget like the proper name for the range, but she's got that smoothness. To me, her voice is like Galaxy Chocolate. A bit of Galaxy Chocolate is just so smooth. The best plastic chocolate, as I say. I know the comments are a bit saccharine, but her voice is amazing when you hear those recordings. Okay, and then we'll pick a rock, the greatest rock female vocalist. I love Christine McVie and Stevie Nicks in Fleetwood Mac. But of course, Ann Wilson, it just stands alone. If someone said to me she's the greatest rock singer ever as well, you wouldn't get a complaint from me. Incredible on Barracuda, incredible on the early Heart stuff. Mistral Wind, she can draw up that raw and that pure emotional expression. And of course, in a ballad like Alone, she delivers the emotion and that massive note that just feels effortless. Just incredible range, incredible delivery, cool diction. She's got it all. Amazing. And the weird thing is her sister's a bloody great singer as well. It's easy to overlook Nancy Wilson, but when you listen to Nancy's harmonies and the tracks she sings as well, she's got great range, great emotion, kind of more vulnerability than Anna. And I love the tracks Nancy sings. I love hearing her voice. Will You Be There in the Morning? Oh, just amazing. Now we'll get to the three, or four top ones for rock. Klaus Meine, just brilliant, so unusual. Obviously, he's got a very German edge to his singing because he's German. He's got a kind of higher register in a way it shouldn't work, you know, that kind of higher frequency to his voice. But what Klaus has is pure melody. And when he sings a ballad, there's no other singer in rock metal that can sing a ballad like Klaus can. There's just something about his voice. Those early Scorpions recordings, he does some wild screaming, you know, clearly influenced by the likes of Plant and probably David Byron, the Uriah Heep, very big in Germany, don't forget. And he probably shredded his voice a little bit with that, and that probably gave him the problems around the time of Blackout. And then when he had his vocal cords fixed, he could still get up there, but he didn't go as mental. But just brilliant. I can understand why some people don't get Klaus Meine. He's not everyone's taste, but I love him. Great frontman as well. Brilliant. And then Jeff Tate of Queensryche. He's still got it as well. You know, he's had to kind of lower how he sings things, but I've seen him live recently and he's still really good. But those early Queensryche recordings, I mean, he's channeling Dickinson, Dio and Halford. You know, he's kind of like bringing the Holy Trinity into one person. Rage for All, extraordinary vocal performance. Operation Mindcrime Empire, you know, the first album, Warning, Take Hold of the Flame. There's any number of examples. But what I love about Jeff Tate is that deep resonance in his voice. And when you hear him speaking, you can hear that in his singing. And he sounded great when he did spoken word stuff on the Queensryche albums. Which brings me to, of course, Ronnie James Dio. In Rainbow, in Sabbath, in Dio. I think he's the GOAT, really, but I'm going to pick someone else as my fave. But just amazing. And it's extraordinary that Rainbow were able to replace him with other great singers. Graham Bonnet's a top mention here, as is Joe Lynn Turner. Two great singers who did great and different jobs. Bonnet, he's insane, and Joe Lynn Turner's just got that lovely Paul Rodgers, Coverdale feel, but a bit higher. So, always respected those, but going back to Dio, you know, when he first stepped to the realm of Rainbow, it's amazing. But I think Neon Nights, you know, when you heard him with Sabbath, that's when he really found his home, because he could bring in the melody and the muscle there. Incredible. Obviously, I've neglected Bruce Dickinson here. I've got huge respect for Bruce Dickinson. Huge respect for his athleticism, what he did for Maiden, his modern take on Ian Gillan. I just never quite liked his voice as much as these other singers, but an honourable mention there. And of course, my favourite vocalist of all time, and this was such a close thing with Dio, but I have to give it to Rob Halford of Judas Priest. The first metal band I really became aware of, the first metal singer. He's still doing it, he's still sounding really good considering his age. But his legacy is extraordinary when you listen to Rock and Roller, his kind of take on classic rock on that, but with some higher stuff. Then inventing metal singing, really kind of working out how to do the Byron Gillan thing, the Plant thing, but with this kind of higher thing, I guess, on Samuels of Destiny. That continued the experimentations of Stained Class, the singing almost in falsetto chest thing with Stained Class, Sin After Sin, I meant to say before, then kind of changing up, kind of changing again with Killing Machine, then kind of adopting that into the British Steel album, then the odd experimentations on tracks like Turning Circles, You Say Yes, you know, weird on Point of Entry, then just kind of nailing how metal singing's going to sound for the 80s with Scream for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith. Fantastic lead vocals on the Turbo album, brilliant vocal on Turbo Lover. Some great vocals on the Ram It Down album, Blood Red Skies, the title track, Hard as Iron, and even a fairly naffish sort of track that I like, Come and Get It. And then, of course, there's the full-on power metal of Painkiller. Incredible diversity in his singing, and that's why I think he's got my number one slot. Okay, there's probably other ones I could have had in there. If anyone chooses to comment, put your faves in, and you may, there'll be some ones you love as well. Remember, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.